Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel. This is my review for Godzilla Minus One, the 33rd Godzilla movie from Toho Studios, their 30th live-action Godzilla movie, and the 37th Godzilla film overall, if you count the 1998 movie, which, again, I don't think many Godzilla fans count it as an official Godzilla movie, but whatever. The movie takes place in 1947, 2 years after World War II had come to an end, as well as not only the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, but also the Tokyo fire bombings that took place in March of 1945. A Japanese pilot has returned to Tokyo and realized that the city is in ruins. His family's dead, and he's forced to live in a tiny shack because of the Tokyo bombings. Soon he comes across a young woman and a child that is not her own. The woman eventually moves into the pilot's residence, but the two of them start living together and forming their own family. So once we actually get to the year that this movie takes place, 1947, the country is starting to settle down and rebuild itself. But unfortunately, another disaster looms its ugly head in the form of a giant monster named Godzilla. Hence the title of this movie. Godzilla's appearance at this period of time basically takes Japan's economic state from 0 to -1. I want to take a moment and talk about what my most anticipated movies of this year were, because I didn't really have a definitive answer. On one hand, it would be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. On the other hand, it would be Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. And on and off again, it would actually be the 1-2 punch of Barbie and Oppenheimer, or Barbenheimer. Godzilla Minus One was actually not on my most anticipated movies list at first. The reason for that is because I figured, this being a Japanese Godzilla movie, that yeah, it would be released in 2023, but in the United States we wouldn't be able to see it until the next year, so I just kind of put it on the back burner. That was until the first trailer for this movie came out, and at the same time the trailer came out, Toho announced that it would be getting a theatrical release in the United States a month after it came out in Japan. So automatically, that jumped this movie up to be my most anticipated of the year. And for my money, this movie lived up to expectations and then some. Now, if you remember, whenever I talk about Shin Godzilla, specifically in my best of the decade list, I talked about how we only get a special type of Godzilla movie every 30 years. For example, the original film came out in 1954, nearly 70 years ago, cut to 30 years later with the return of Godzilla, and then 32 years later with Shin Godzilla. And after Shin Godzilla, I thought to myself, well, we're not going to get a movie like this for at least another 30 years, or ever, because Shin Godzilla raised the bar so high. And I'm happy to be wrong in that aspect, because we apparently only had to wait 7 years to get another Godzilla movie like this. If Shin Godzilla was the best Godzilla movie since 1964, Godzilla Minus One is the best film in the franchise since 1954. It might be a bold claim to make this soon after it came out, but I am dead serious. But first I want to talk about why this movie is as good as it is, but not as a Godzilla fan, because it's easy for me to just get super excited over a Godzilla movie, but I want to talk about this just as a regular movie and why this works so well. The biggest thing that really makes this movie what it is are the characters. I really liked all of them. They had a lot of great development, fantastic scenes, and all of the actors do a great job in their roles. Ryunosuke Kamiki is the lead actor in this film, and he's the pilot that was originally assigned to be a kamikaze pilot. But there's something that happens earlier in the movie that explains his relationship to Godzilla and why he's such a great character, because he's dealing with survivor's guilt and PTSD throughout a lot of this movie. And the fact that this actor is able to bring this character to a calm state, a panic state, and sort of a state of trying to get back to normal is so well done. This actor does a fantastic job. Minami Hamabe is also really good as well. and to be honest, unrecognizable, because the last movie that she was in was Shin Kamen Rider. And in Shin Kamen Rider, I thought she was really boring and just flat out terrible. But in this movie, she gives a great performance and has some great scenes with the lead actor as well. So both of these actors are the true heart of this movie. But you have some other great characters as well. You have the scientist, you have the younger soldier, the grizzled vet. You have so many established archetypes that you see in monster movies before, but they all feel like real people, and you get to know them well enough to where you like each and every one of them. I really love the theme of this movie, where it's basically a country uniting to fight off against a threat for their own future's sake. It is so well done, and by the time you get to the big climax of the movie, you're rooting for all these characters, because they're just average people. They may have served in World War II at some point, but they are basically private citizens who are willing to put themselves on the line to defend the future of their country. And it certainly gives you a more hopeful feeling than the cynical satire that Shin Godzilla had. Which again, that movie is brilliant, but they're two different things. Shin Godzilla was certainly more of a political satire on how inept Japanese politicians can be in the face of danger, whereas Godzilla Minus One is how people are willing to band together and fight for the future. All of the character stuff is so well done and is the true driving force of the movie. And now, obviously, I have to talk about Godzilla himself, because he may not be the biggest Godzilla out there, but goddamn, he is certainly the most aggressive and scary Godzilla out there. Probably more so than Shin Godzilla or the GMK one, because he's more ruthless. He is more fixated on attacking his victims, and the amount of damage that he causes is just mind-blowing. This is the first time I've ever seen a Japanese blockbuster of this scale with special effects that look just as good, if not better, than most Hollywood movies that we get out there. CG-wise, this really is right up there with Godzilla vs. Kong in terms of how good it looks. Even better, I'd say. The destruction scenes are fantastic. Every sequence that Godzilla appears is better than the last one, especially that climax that I mentioned earlier. It is thrilling, it is creative, it'll put you on the edge of your seat, and will certainly add to the laundry list of iconic Godzilla sequences. If I had one issue with this movie, and it's the reason why I don't think this is better than the 1954 original, it's that the ending leaves you on a cliffhanger. Considering how the third act wraps itself before the actual ending, I thought this would have worked perfectly as another great standalone Godzilla movie, but there are two teases to a sequel by the time you get to the end, which wasn't enough to ruin the movie, but I didn't think this was as tight or as conclusive as the 1954 original. But even then, that's not enough to ruin this movie at all, because Godzilla Minus One at the end of the day really is the best movie in the franchise since the 1954 classic. It's so well directed, it's got great human characters, the cinematography is outstanding, the special effects are jaw-dropping. Godzilla is probably the most terrifying he's ever been. The score is fantastic and is very moody, but makes really great use of the Ifukube themes when appropriate. So yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. If you're a Godzilla fan, or just a fan of movies in general, you need to get off your ass and go see this right now, especially in a movie theater, because I know it might sound like I'm just fanboying because I'm a big Godzilla fan, but I'm saying this as a fan of movies. This truly is amazing and deserves to be in the conversation for one of the best movies of the year. I'm not holding my breath at all that it's going to get Oscar attention, considering that Japan submitted another movie for Best Foreign Film, but this deserves to be talked about with all the other great movies that we've gotten this year. And there you go, that's my review for Godzilla Minus One. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.